I am a social worker, general education social worker at Southeastern Elementary here in Hastings. Before that, I was a early on coordinator, worked with birth to 3-year-olds with developmental delays and disabilities. And then I had a few years that I got to work with my friend Laura at Berry County Mental Health, doing home-based services for families. So we are here. This is Laura. I'll let Laura introduce herself real quick, and I've got to get over my nerves. I'll slow down in just a minute.
It's all good. It's all good.
Take your time. I'll settle down. So.
It's the weather that's shaking us a little bit
Yes.
too. I think we had to cancel because of the snow, and now we have this torrential rain. So
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming out today. So my name is Laura Meyers. I'm a therapist at Berry County Community Mental Health. I've been there about 10 years. I specialize in trauma-focused therapy with kids. I work with kids age 0 to 18. Trauma, attachment, behavior issues, the whole gamut of things. So I think kind of starting out today, we wanted to just kind of take a poll of, if there's a specific age range that you guys want to focus on, if you have specific questions, we can just kind of be really informal and hopefully address the specific things that you have concerns about, or if you want just kind of general information, we're glad to provide that as well. So how many people here have like infant toddler range that they want to talk about?
Oh,
Okay.
I thought you were just saying infants.
Okay.
Have a baby.
Okay.
Okay, you have them, but they're okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
All right. So quite a few. What about like
Elementary.
elementary? Yeah, elementary.
Okay, so we kind of got, and then any older, high school, middle schools?
Middle school.
High school.
Little middle, okay.
Okay,
All
the
right.
whole gamut.
The whole gamut.
All right.
All right, so then I guess we kind of did it to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so we put together, between the two of us, we have a bazillion resources and how to put that all down in one place and organize it. I cheated. We cheated. We found this slideshow from Bombay, Cambridge. Oh, no. But I want to give them the proper credit. They put this together, and we stole it. So it just kind of gives us a way to kind of start and go. And please ask questions as we go through. And I think I just did it. All right. So the first part of this presentation is a little bit more development stuff. Just a reminder that the first 5 years of a baby's life are the most important years. 5, 7, birth to 5, birth to 3. Those are the years that baby's brains are on fire. So these are the most critical times in development for kids. I don't know that the rest of the world has caught up with that yet. Laura and I kind of fight the infant mental health battle a lot. I know when I was going to, even when I applied for the schools, I had all of this young information, and I didn't quite know how to apply it once I got to schools, but I got there, I figured it out, so it's pretty important stuff. So, just starting out, at birth, myth or fact, you can obviously see this, the brain is fully developed just like a heart or a stomach. How many of you guys would have thought the baby's brain is all set and ready to go from birth? Good. So I can't speak brain speak very well, but just to hit on this, the newborn's brain is only about a quarter size of the adult's. In the first year, it is 50% developed. By 3 years, it's 80% developed, and by 5, it's 90% developed. So there's a lot of stuff going on in these little buggers' brains in the first few years of life. Next one. How many of you would have thought that the brain's development depended entirely on genes? What you were born with? Is it changeable, or are you stuck with what you got?
It's changeable.
Absolutely changeable. Yeah, genes have a lot to do with it, but it is changeable.
That's the wonderful thing about working with young babies and toddlers, is that you have a lot of opportunity there, even though there might be some, trauma from different experiences or difficulty with, attachment and things like that, developmental issues. You still have a lot of opportunity there to make some good changes that will help shape the future of that child.
So I just realized 30 to 60% of our brain is dependent on hereditary stuff, but 40 to 70% develops based on interactions with the environment, including parents. So your environment is really important as well.
Okay.
This is just kind of one of those ones that we have to throw out there. That talking to a baby, it's not important. They don't understand what you're saying, right?
Well, I have a question too. I used to talk to my child. I mean, does that make an effect? Okay, because my second son, I used to put a lot of soothing music. My first son, he came out very high strung.
Yeah.
My second son, he's more laid back.
Oh, that's
So
interesting. That's
I kind of seen a difference, but gene wise, yeah. But you know, live and you learn.
I can't speak to science. I'm not a scientist researcher.
No,
but
right.
I know there's a ton of research that even
Yeah.
what is it, in utero, right? That's the word.
I'm not
In
saying
utero.
that if you put on Mozart when they're in the womb, they're gonna come out IQ.
Well, no, it does. Actually, not just talking to the babies while they're in utero is good.
Right.
But there is science, and unfortunately, I've been to a lot of trauma stuff lately that says that just as much as it's soothing, they feel and hear what's going on outside of them as well, outside of mom.
So when they are born, they recognize, like my son off the top, my second son, but my first son was just like, oh, that's dad, okay.
It's just, it does make a difference. I can't say, there's research that definitely shows that, it's definitely not a bad thing.
I just wanted to make sure if that was a myth or there's the facts.
No, it's not a myth, no.
It's not?
It's easier for babies in utero to recognize mom's voice because there's that physical attachment there. But there is evidence that they do recognize like tones and vibration patterns in dads as well. Yeah, so that's definitely good. All good. And there's all kinds of studies related to music and brain development. And we hear about this a lot, and I don't know if you guys have kids that do like sing-song yoga at school. There's a lot of different types of yoga, but there's different teachers that are really kind of more progressive that do things with music. There's tons of research associated with music and being able to learn. So I feel like we should all be singing multiplication strategies, because I probably would have gotten a lot better in school had we done that. So.
I remember words to songs. Maybe if I learned math facts, I would have gotten that too. So it's absolutely important to talk to your kids always. This is one of my favorites. Children need special help and specific educational toys to develop their brain power. Obviously, you can see it's a myth. What are your thoughts on that?
It helped my son.
Yeah.
I usually, do the ABCs. A, B, C, D, F, G. When he was 2, he started to pick up, like, off the top.
Yeah.
And I noticed that he was learning, and I would sing around the house. A, B, C, D. At the time, he was learning how to potty and everything else. So he would come in the kitchen, and I would watch him. And he'll be walking around, A, B, C. So that impacts helped him. So
absolutely does. Do you need special toys? Do you need to buy the baby Einsteins? Do you need to buy the educational toys? Do you need to have every educational app on your iPad?
I just usually teach them and read them a book at night and show them the pictures. Like, oh, look at the unit.
Absolutely.
They learn a lot from just experiencing things like playing with sticks.
Right.
They need a video to,
No. And that really is something that, that is really something that's missing, is that interaction, and you see it's kind of scary a little bit. And I have an 18 and 21-year-old, and even in them, I can see where that interaction is missing because it's so much easier to just text it out now.
Right.
So these interactions, the toys, I mean, while they're educational, yes, are they bad? No. But are they really helping them a ton? No. They're fun here and there in moderation. They're definitely absolutely, But the most important part is sensory experiences. You're playing with your sticks, your imagination, learning how to get along with each other. Yeah, absolutely. This one was kind of a cool, lots of words, but basically a child's brain, think of it as a house that's just been built. The walls are up, doors are hung. Then you go to the store, you buy the electrical wiring, switches, fuse box, electrical staples. You bring the supplies home, you set them on the floor, and bam, do they work?
No, can't put them together.
I keep putting my back to you guys. I'm sorry. I'm moving back this way so that
We can still hear you.
But right, they need a lot of wiring. So again, I'm not very. Maybe Laura can speak better this speech, but just to look at the density, synaptic density, whatever. Like, so baby's born at birth. At 7 years, that's how much is happening inside their brains. Their brains are just on fire, building. And then, if you look by the age of 15, at 7, they just start weeding things out.
Right.
You keep what you use. I think there might be a slide. Maybe I'll just hold on to that. But just, it's kind of like, this is why this is so important.
Right. So does it, in time, decrease? Within time, more or less? Just the
Yes.
things that they learn, they hold
Yes.
on to. Okay.
Yes.
It's hard to learn things older.
It is.
Okay.
And you're bringing, because it's taking in so much information. Again, not a scientist, and I don't speak brain very well, so Laura, please help me here too. But it doesn't ever stop building, which is the good news.
Okay.
But it does slow down, and it does make it gets a little bit more plastic. Is that the right word, right term?
The earlier that you can kind of rewire, so to speak, as far as experiences, negative experiences, traumatic experiences, the greater the chance of healing and being able to move forward and having healthy relationships and attachments and those kind of things. So it kind of goes back to that, that window of time from birth to 3 is
Right.
really critical. They kind of extended that to 5 and 6 now with the infant mental health things too.
Right.
But the brain is more elastic the younger you are and more flexible to be able to do that.
Right.
So
It
it's
keeps-
pretty fascinating.
It's
really.
amazing. It is so amazing.
So when they're younger, it progresses, and then when they get older, it kind of dissipates. But still, they still have that,
Yes.
what they learned.
They're absolute
Okay.
sponges.
Right.
And I think I might have deleted those. I might have hit those slides.
Yeah.
They're-
Explains
if
why-
it comes up again, I
Yeah.
apologize. I go back on it. But then it just starts keeping what it uses
Okay.
and throwing out what it doesn't.
What it doesn't, yeah. It explains
So-
a lot. My son, he asked me thousands of questions.
Yeah.
And I was just like, son, Daddy doesn't really know that one. Well, Dad, we can find it out. We should go on Google. Son, you don't have to use Google for that. But I can see why they're
Yes,
learning.
and that's kind of where the development and where your emotional, we're gonna get to that emotional development as well. So it's not just academic, brainy stuff.
Right.
It's also the emotional part was really key, and that's the part that we really need to work on a lot with our kids.
Okay.
There's been a huge emphasis, I know at the school level, on ABCs and 1, 2, 3s.
Right.
And I've been in the schools now for 4 years, I think, and I see a lot of that social emotional piece missing
Right.
and not being developed because of the way our world is today. So
Yeah.
we'll get there a little bit more too. So
The highest age group of, like the highest rate of expulsions, does anybody know?
See about
Any
15 to
guesses?
17.
Middle school?
Middle school, high school.
High school?
Yeah.
No.
Wrong.
I would say 7 to 9. Does it?
Closer, but still wrong. Preschool.
Really?
That's the highest rate of expulsions, yes. And I have 2 right now that are on the verge, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so kind of to that point of social and emotional health. At 5,
Yeah.
do you guys, Jamie Lee Curtis, the actress?
Yeah.
She has a great children's book. It's called It's Hard to Be 5. She actually has a whole series of children's books. But it talks about just sitting still, like in a circle, and how difficult that is as a 5-year-old.
Right.
Because you do have that, attention span of,
Yeah.
bird, and you want to absorb everything, and to be able to sit still and focus on one person.
It's kind of hard for a 5-year-old.
It is very difficult, and that's normal development.
Right.
So some of the things that we are expecting kids to do when they get to kindergarten is really kind of ridiculous. Just for typical development, not to mention any kind of learning issues
Right.
or, neglect, abusive experiences.
Okay.
All of that is kind of stacked on top of that plate for that child, and it's very, very difficult for them to
Right.
be successful.
Right.
So, getting back to that, just being able to share and take turns
Yeah.
and
I
think about
noticed-
other people's feelings, things like that. That social and emotional piece is
And a lot
very
of that
critical.
stuff, I feel like it's easier for 5-year-olds if they're doing that earlier.
Yeah.
They can get them to
Absolutely.
sit down when they're wanting to and explain, oh, look at so-and-so is sad, and,
Right.
explain that empathy, but if that piece is missing
Yes.
between that, newborn to 3, then by
Right.
5, they're like, why can't you guys do this? Well, I was never taught.
Right.
Right. Right.
It's a whole new world. It
Right.
really, really is. And when I got to the schools, I don't know how much you guys pay attention, but the teachers are expected to teach bell to bell.
Right.
Academics,
Right.
bell to bell.
Right.
So kindergarten classrooms don't have the fun play
They're not
areas
gonna have
anymore. They don't
days
take
anymore.
they don't take their naps anymore. There's no
Right.
napping. There's no time for anything but ABCs and 1, 2, 3s.
Right.
And
Right.
so they are down to, a lot of schools are down to 1 recess at lunch.
Yeah.
Where do we learn all of those social skills? We
Right.
learn them during playtime. We learn them through,
Right.
kids at that age learn most through play.
Right.
And the rest, I really hope that the pendulum starts coming back this way. Actually, I believe it is. I brought, there is now, the Michigan Department of Education, early childhood to grade 12, social and emotional learning competencies and indicators.
Okay.
There's actually, we are supposed to start moving into going back to doing the things that we used to just do naturally, that we didn't have
Instead of
to
the
teach it.
ASQs.
Yes.
Right.
social emotional.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So going back to, they're starting to realize that that social piece is getting lost.
Yeah. I mean, we have so
And-
much it's social media, this, the
Uh-huh.
YouTube, this and all that. And I like, seriously, I let my son, but to a certain point.
Right.
And I observe him when he's watching his
Yep.
YouTube and everything else. And sometimes I will join him.
Yeah.
Like, what you watching, bud? Oh, I'm watching such. And he'll tell me, like, oh, this is cool. If I don't agree with it, son, I don't want you watching that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why, Dad? No, that's not very appropriate.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
hard.
Dad. And then I'll show him, like, hey, let's watch Daddy Shark. Oh, yeah, Dad, I like Daddy Shark. And we'll sit there together and we'll watch
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
we'll build that communicate that what he needs.
It's a hard, it's
So
a
it's-
hard world.
It's
out there.
challenging.
How
It
are
is.
they gonna start implementing that?
How?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. This new stuff is coming out, is in the new, it's ESA, Educational something, Act something or other.
Yeah.
And it's kind of all hauled up right now too. But where was I just, I went to a trauma conference a few weeks ago, and one of the gals there was saying that this is coming. And actually it's already starting a little bit in Hastings. Are you guys all mostly Hastings people?
Yeah.
At our elementary schools in Hastings, we are teaching a curriculum called Second Step. And it is a social and emotional curriculum. And we are doing it young K through 5th grade.
Okay.
So it's just teaching them how to first identify other people's first listening skills, then identifying other people's emotions, identifying their own emotions, moving into some skills like then how do I handle my emotions? We've got the Calm Down song, it's a bunch of different things. And then we move into problem solving kinds of things too. I personally haven't gotten all the way through problem solving yet. It's been, like I said, 4 years that we're trying to learn how to do it. But I'm going in once a week to all of the classrooms and stealing part of their social studies time to do these lessons. So the little kids are about half-hour lesson, and 4th and 5th grades about 45-minute lesson. They're pretty cool. So that's one way that we're doing it. I'm not sure what else is, how else it's
Right.
going to be coming through. It just like there's a career thing coming too, that we career in education somehow has to get woven into curriculum
Right.
as well. It's not that difficult to
Yeah,
do.
it's
but
not. Sometimes we
it's a
got to
shift.
take it back to the base is what
Yep.
we learned. I remember when I was in school, preschool, kindergarten. We had recess. We had naps as well, and that helped me out, socially, because we didn't have all this technology and this and all that. We just had toys and a teacher,
Yep.
and the teacher would teach us and read to us, and it helped me out with social skills with other classmates.
Right.
Hey, what's your name? I'm Johnny.
Yep.
Oh, I'm Brandon.
Yeah.
I can remember like it was yesterday.
Yep.
Making friends.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm gonna tell my son.
Yeah.
Get off the phone. Go make a
Yeah.
friend.
I worked really hard with my husband and I worked really hard with that, like, kids really,
Right.
Mom, will you go ask, nope, you wanna know? You go.
Right.
You need to use that, and it is pretty cool to hear them. Yeah,
Yeah.
to hear the kids, not all the time, but I'm just gonna call, and to hear them actually talking on the phone to their friends, it's kinda cool.
Yeah.
So.
I know
Yeah.
in the GSRP group where my daughter goes to Southeast, like they do have like a feeling board, and if they need like a safe place, that's what they call it,
Yeah.
to calm down.
Yeah.
In her classroom, they have a safe place, which is a corner where they calm down and then they can go and talk.
Yeah,
So-
they do some nice things with
We did
GSR.
the mindful, were you there for the?
No.
Oh. They did the mindful, like you take it in, you like push it and you
Yeah.
release, and they're teaching
Yep.
that in the GSR.
There's a lot of schools that are doing the mindfulness.
The
I know
mindfulness.
our principal at Southeastern is big in mindfulness, but her plate's kind of full, but that's definitely
Right.
something. It's just a matter of finding time in the curriculum,
Mhm.
battling.
Well, I hear her talking, like when I sit with my daughter class, they mention something like on the
Yeah.
announcement,
Yeah.
where she's like, it's not good to hit our friends, sometimes you need to sit there at the corner and breathe in, breathe out
Yep.
before you go back and play with them. So they are pushing it.
Every way we can, every minute we can try,
Right.
absolutely.
And I think it really, just kind of to your earlier point, kids need to, it's kind of normalizing being able to talk about your feelings.
Right.
Right.
And if you can start that really early and some of the mindfulness and deep breathing,
Right.
I mean, goodness, as a 3-year-old, if they're able to do those kind of things,
Right.
imagine how much better they're gonna handle high school and their
Right.
first job and
Right.
breakup and, all
College.
these things. It's wonderful skills. And there are some really good resources. I should have brought some today. But I have, they're called yoga pretzels, and they're different yoga poses with breathing techniques. We have mindfulness cards, and they're very kid-friendly, so.
I think the MSU extension has, like like the poses for the kids, and I
Mhm.
can't remember what they were, because we did them one night, I
Yeah.
can't remember what like they have certain names and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that, and like releasing and pushing out negativity and.
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, and kids love them. Early preschool, love them.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and even at older, I mean, I do them with
Yeah.
up to teenagers, so,
It's pretty
they-
cool.
Yeah,
And again, it's that we're trying to get them when they're little,
Right.
teach them that stuff, and you get that, be part of their rhythm, part of their being.
Right.
And hopefully, you keep that going. That's the stuff that your brain's gonna keep.
It's repetition.
And not throw out.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. And the brain needs that calm down. It's whatever. Reset, but is it cortisol or what is there's those fancy words
Yeah.
that your brain gets off on.
cortisol,
Yeah.
stress.
The other one.
Serotonin?
Yeah,
The B one?
The good one.
The
Yeah.
B one,
there's a good one that is just as.
Dopamine?
Dopamine, yes,
Thank you.
yes,
I knew it was
yes.
the B one. I was with you. I know you're
It's right on the tip of my head.
connected. Thank you.
I there's things, and I know there's
Yeah.
things.
Things
So,
in the brain that
It
go to
releases good energy.
Yeah.
It's your aura, guys.
So developmental, I think I jumped this thing because I wanted to get more to the emotional stuff, but just, so I don't know what led up to this thing, but giving feedback is how kids learn. And they need specific, immediate, solution-driven feedback. Negative feedback involving rejection, criticism, ridicule, those things build up in the brain as well. So you want to fill the brain with good stuff and not the bad stuff.
Right.
And a lot of the times that I think that even I as a parent, I had to retrain my brain as I was learning all this stuff. It's a lot of retraining your brain and how you talk to your kids and what you do. You can't assume that they know what they're doing.
Right.
There's a lot of that talk about don't run, don't talk, don't swear, don't say that word.
Right.
You have all of those things. We've told them what not to do.
You have to tell them what to do.
You have to tell them what to do.
Right.
So,
We're gonna walk.
yeah, we're gonna walk. You can't say that D word, but you can say donut or dough or shoot or whatever it may be, and practice those words with them. It's just retraining and problems. And the other thing too that we're also developing, I think, as a generation, as a society now, is that we are taking care of our kids at all costs and fighting every single battle for them.
Right.
We have to teach them how to problem solve themselves and how to fight their own battles and let them fall.
Right.
And that is the hardest thing as a
Yeah.
parent. I'm going through it right now with 18 to 21-year-olds. I've been through it many times,
Right.
and it is the hardest thing to let go and let them fall and learn.
Right.
So that's part of what this piece is talking about here. Can a child overcome the effects of insufficient care or stimulation during the early years of life? Absolutely. I know Laura's gone to probably nearly as many or more trauma things as I have, and it's kind of depressing when you hear the impact of trauma on a child. But the best part about it is that no matter what, there is always hope. So it can bounce back. Best activities to engage, obviously, music, art, and physical activity.
Yeah.
And they're trying to shove educate ABCs and 1, 2, 3s in there too, and not just letting kids enjoy. Oh, sorry, soapbox.
Not just flash.
Sometimes you just have to experience music. You don't have to throw more ABCs and 1, 2, 3s in it. There's musical notes and there's rhythms and numbers that way, so you don't have to add more to it, but just they need the opportunity to let their brains grow. Obviously, health, safety, good nutrition, warm, caring relationships, those are critical. Recognize that each child is unique. That kids all have different temperaments, they grow at their own pace, and that pace varies from child to child. But always have those positive expectations for your kids.
Right.
Hold on to the belief that every child can, no matter what, they can do something, they're going to do something.
Right.
And they need to hear that.
Right.
Obviously, talking, reading, singing to kids, stories, music, songs, open-ended
Yes.
questions. I've heard you guys already talking about that. Discuss pictures. When they bring you pictures, tell me it. Have them tell you about the picture. Not asking, what is that? Tell me what you drew, or why did you use that blue color?
Right.
Again, when I started getting this stuff, I thought, this is so hokey. Like, come on, like, why? But when I started practicing it and seeing what came out of it, it was amazing. And Laura's probably seen more of this in clinical with drawing pictures and playing with the toys and how that stuff comes out.
Right.
That's one of the things that we look for with kids, and I mean even teenagers. You know, like, art is a way to express what's inside the heart and the soul. And so, you know, when we're seeing drawings of violence or inappropriate
Right.
sexual behavior, things like that, that's very telling of what that child has experienced or witnessed. And so that's a really healing way to kind of undo some of that damage too.
Right.
We can rewrite those stories.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful
Right.
to be able to do that. That's one of the things that we do in trauma-focused therapy is we write their story. And so we get very specific as to, you know, whatever the identified trauma is that the child experiences, and it's all child-led. So I might look at a child's experiences and say, oh my gosh, this one has got to be the worst thing that's ever happened. But that might not be the case for the child. So it's very centered on what the child experiences is the worst thing, and we go through that and we talk about very specific details, and that really helps them to be able to kind of separate psychologically the experiences from their present. So, and a lot of that is that mindfulness too, of being where you are here and now, you are safe, those things aren't happening.
Right.
So, and being able to share that story, and then the healing piece of that, the recovery, how they got through that, and it's a wonderful thing. So we do a lot of pictures and you know, very creative ways to help them work through that. So it's very cool. Very cool.
Okay. Use discipline to teach. This one is a tricky, you guys have probably heard this a lot of different ways. And I think we just talked about this. So use the time, a kid's job is to make mistakes. That's how they learn. So when they make mistakes, when they do things that are wrong, they're not necessarily doing them to be bad. Like I can say there are tons of things on the playground that come in that end up in pushing and shoving, sometimes more, that are clearly misunderstandings and the inability for them to figure out the
Right.
problems. So a lot of times, I know even our own teachers, my principal is a social worker as well, so I'm not sure if that's a good thing to have two of us in the building. But a lot of times when we're, dealing with the incident is not a crackdown, horrible punishment kind of a thing. It is really talking to them, finding out what happened, listening to the story, and then helping them problem solve. Again, what could you have done differently? Oh, well maybe I could have asked him if he really meant to throw that snowball at me or if he was just being silly or goofy or whatever. Those kinds of things. So when using discipline to teach the feelings, give them words to describe their feelings, because they can't enunciate that either. It's
Right.
really hard for them to tell you how they're feeling if they haven't really learned those feelings. Sounds silly, but it's true. Make it clear that you might not always like the way they're behaving, but you always love them. Explain the rules and consequences of behavior so children can learn the whys behind what you're asking them to do, and then tell them what you want them to do. We just talked about that, not just what you don't want them to do, and point out how their behavior affects others, empathy.
That's one thing that I definitely do with my son, and I just did that recently. He was doing something, and I told him to not do that. He said, Daddy, why? I want to do it. I said, the reason why is because such and such and such and such. I don't want you to do it.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you can not do that, you'll make Daddy very happy.
Yes.
He said, okay, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna play it and had a good time.
Yeah.
So-
It is.
But that's important.
Sometimes they just don't
yes. Yeah, they don't. They don't.
So a lot of times, even though you've told them
1,000
1,000
times.
they're still learning.
Yeah.
And they haven't, that's not cemented in their brains yet.
Right.
And empathy, oh, Laura, help me. When is empathy really, that's not developed truly until 6, 7, 8.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
First
they,
grade, second grade.
they truly don't understand, and that's why the littles that we're doing the second step, what do you look for? Oh, he's happy. How can you tell he's happy? Well, he's happy because, nope. Look at the picture. How
Yeah.
can you tell he's happy? So we really target in, and then we kind of, the second step lessons, we're doing that over and over again, and those are things that are so important for you guys to do at home.
Right.
How do you think I'm feeling right now? Okay, Mom, you look mad. Okay, what about me? Tells you I'm mad right now. What do you see in my face? And helping them identify it on other people. And it's
Right.
a huge, huge skill that they're still developing it. Oh gosh, my 5th graders are so worried. My 18, 21-year-olds, my kids are still. So,
There's that normal part of development that's all self-centered. The world
Right.
revolves around me. What,
Right.
you don't have feelings. I'm sure.
Right.
Everything is about me
It's
and what
about
makes me
me.
happy.
Yes,
Yeah, so that's
yes.
a normal part of development too.
Okay.
So I think kind of looking at the littles, kind of to that point, being specific about what you want them to do and not
Right.
what you don't want them to do.
Right.
How many people think that it would be really difficult to go 24 hours without using the word no or don't to redirect their children? I tried it once, very hard.
Yeah.
But it also helps you look at things a different way.
Right.
If I don't want my child jumping on the couch, how can I say that? I can say, okay, you can jump on the floor, or you can go outside and you can jump.
Right.
Give them choices.
Okay.
And that's being very clear. There's the first 3 seconds that a child hears the information that we give them.
Right.
Which is also frustrating as a parent, I think, because you have a lot to say and you have really good information and wisdom to bestow upon them
Right.
in these moments.
Right.
But they don't get it.
Right.
So that's another reason to kind of think about what do I want to give them in this 3 to 5 second snapshot
Right.
that's going to stick. Because
Right.
that's all I've got.
Okay. All right.
And there's some science, and I remember going, it was back before I had kids, or when my kids were little. And we went to a workshop and they said the word don't, there's some, again, don't speak it well, but there's something about the word don't that they don't hear.
They don't hear, they don't hear the word don't, they hear what you say after.
Yes.
So if you say don't run, they hear run.
Right.
And again,
If you don't hit, they hear hit.
right, and again, I thought that was the most hokey thing
Yeah.
until I was in the store, and my son
Right.
went to grab a pop bottle, and I knew he was gonna shake it,
Mhm.
and I grabbed it, and I go, and I'm in my head, how do I say this, how do I say this, how do I fix it, I can't get it out, and before I got it out, I'm like, don't
Yep.
shake it, okay, yep, but I'm
Yeah.
But-
Way in the back.
yeah, so it is.
But do you think they do that? My son will do that. But me and my son would joke a lot. For instance, Carter, don't do that, Carter. Don't do it. And he's looking directly at me.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
do it. Don't, Carter. 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 One. And he'll take off running.
Oh yeah, that,
For me
that's-
as a father, how I am, I'm gonna chase him. Why did you do that? Well, because it was fun, Dad. Well, I don't want you doing that, bud. Okay, I need that for something. If you knock it over, it's gonna spill. I tell him the reasons why I'm telling him not to do that. But at the same time, he's looking at me like, I can get away with
Right,
this.
right.
I can get away
So
with
here, this is one of my favorite quotes, and I use this all the time. Every behavior is an attempt to meet a need.
Right.
So we talk a lot about this in terms of trauma. You know, what is their behavior trying to show you that they're having trouble putting into words?
Right.
So if you look at that,
Okay.
that example, I would say that's, see, I'm gonna
Right.
push
How
that
I
button
feel- right.
here, watch.
He wants attention.
Right.
Right,
Funny.
right.
Mhm.
That's my son.
Yeah.
The
He loves
best
to
way to get a kid to smile is look at him and say, don't smile,
Right.
don't
Reverse
smile.
psychology.
The first thing they do
Yes.
It's smile.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I got it. I
So,
got it.
and when you look at some of the bigger behavior issues, you know, aggression
Right.
or bedwetting, regressive kind of behaviors, that is sometimes a symptom that we see with kids. Looking at that in terms of what are they trying to tell me right now with that behavior
Right.
can be really helpful because, you know, like extreme aggression or, you know, wedding accidents, whatever it is, that's really difficult behavior to deal with when you're trying to just manage, you know, bedtime and do you have spelling homework
Right.
and do you need a bath and,
Right.
you know, I need to feed you, all these daily life kind of things.
Right.
So it kind of helps to, you know, put our brains as parents in more of a detective mode.
Okay.
Instead of, okay, I've got to fix this problem or I've got
Why is it
to, you know, punish here.
Right.
What is he trying to tell me?
Right.
So I'm a detective, I gotta figure this out.
Right.
And then when I figure that out, I know how to address it instead of, well,
Right.
trying to engage in some sort of conversation about
Yeah.
that when they might not really know.
Yeah, and sometimes the situation might be minor, might be major. Like, you know, where they have a fight at school, or it might be minor where, Daddy, I can't put on my shoes. And my son, he'll get frustrated. So I take time off him, no, crisscross, move the ear, wrap it around, and I show him. Comparison to if he goes to school and little Jason keeps pushing him. And he tells me, Dad, Jason keeps pushing me. He keeps pushing me. I tell the teacher, he keeps pushing me. So what I did to school and suggested to the teacher, okay, we gotta rectify the situation. They're kids, but Jason and Carter keeps going back and forth, pushing each other, doesn't like it. Carter does the same thing with Jason. So we found a solution to the problem. But my son, how he is, I teach him to communicate. You talk to Dad first, because I'm gonna talk to you. The reason being because I love you unconditionally. Before I get angry and everything else, I want to understand why this happened. That's just me and my 6-year-old.
Right, yeah.
So that's
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful, and it goes back to that, you know, giving them words to talk about how they're feeling.
right.
And helping them kind of go inside. There are
Yeah.
reasons why we're behaving this way, why we're using these kind of words, all of that.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
It is.
Going
It
back
is.
to
It's
that
a challenge.
developmental, you
Yes.
know, the normal developmental expectations, it's really hard for a kid, you know, who wants
Right.
that piece of candy to be like, oh, I can't have that candy because it belongs to Johnny. You know, so that's all normal development. I kind of
Now, what? I got a good question
struggle
too.
with that.
Now, what if you tell them don't touch the candy, but then the candy's missing, and you're like Carter, Max, and they're on the couch. You can't even get mad at them, but you have to tell them like, okay, do not touch the candy. This is your mom's candy. Okay, you can have this, but this is your mom's. Understood?
I think
All right.
Get
Kids,
outreach,
I'm just
yeah.
saying that they get it. My kids, they get it to all types. And you know, I can't get mad at them because I look at it like when I was 5, I used to be 10 times, 5 times. But my mother was patient. My father was understanding.
I think if you're looking at behavior in the big picture,
Right.
if it's, you know, taking a piece of candy versus, you know, like popping a pear in the mouth every day
Right.
at school,
Right.
that's probably one that you can kind of
Yeah.
let go and deal with other big issues.
Yeah.
I remember like scaling the cabinets when I was a kid, looking for the chocolate chips because my mom would hide them, and you know, so when I get home and my daughter's into the chocolate
Chips,
chips,
you're
I'm
like,
oh, you know,
oh.
I get that.
Right.
But I think if you're, that sounds very normal, and
Okay.
you know, I think still it's not okay, and
It-
it's still continuing
yeah.
to let them know that that's not okay, and if
Yeah.
it persists, then you know, looking at some sort of consequence. Maybe you don't get dessert because something is missing.
That's
Maybe
how it
mom and
was.
daddy candy.
It was really mommy's
and,
Snicker bar.
You know, maybe they don't get that because there's not enough to share anymore. You know, kind of
Right.
a natural consequence.
Right.
With that, maybe you guys have apples.
Yeah.
For dessert while mom and I
Vegetables or
have
anything of that sort. I don't
candy
like this.
bars.
Okay, well, how about fruit? My son loves fruit.
Yeah.
All of them. They love
I
fruit.
you had on the previous slide to limit TV time. I'm kind of curious, how do we implement this now, as we found out like at an IEP today, that they're like eliminating science and stuff from the school, and there's only 4 bookshelves in the Hastings Library because everything is on the Chromebook. And even our 6-year-old is just handed a Chromebook in the classroom, and they're supposed to do everything on their Chromebook, and they offered to send a Chromebook home for us to let them work with it. I'm trying to figure out, they keep telling us, limit time, limit time, limit time, limit time, but then they tell you, well, this is the wave of the future. You have to prepare them for this is where, so how do you walk that balance? Especially like our high schooler, everything is done on the Chromebook, and she's dual enrolled, and if you don't keep that in your hands, you fall behind.
I may or may not have talked to the tech people and said, why in the world are we shoving more screen time at the kids out of the other side of our mouth? We're saying we reduce screen time.
Right.
I may or may not have said that a lot.
Because they expect you now to use the screen time.
Playing,
Toy School.
it was like Call of Duty or Black Ops or what's the other one? I
Yeah.
can't think of it.
Fortnite.
Fortnite. Like, you're on YouTube watching other people
Play.
play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more, I think, that time for you guys, when we talk that television time, it's probably even more screen time, because I don't think kids watch TV anymore. And then with Netflix and Hulu and all those other things, it's more of paying attention to what your kids are watching. And I have no disrespect to anybody in this room, but I cannot, and I'm sorry if I offend anybody to say this, but I have had 5 and 6-year-olds come in, and I was reading a nice little Disney story, and a clown came up and, oh, I don't like clowns. Well, why don't you like clowns? Well, because my mom and I watched it. And the sweetest little, and I'm like,
I've never watched it.
oh yeah, it's horrible. I don't even know. I think all horror movies are horrible. But I just cringe at that kind of stuff. It's not so much the screen time. Well, screen time, yes, but what you're watching on the screen time too.
Right.
And that,
What you're exposing them to.
Right.
oh, those horror films, they can't process it. They
Yeah.
can't. Their brains can't make sense of it. They're not. And so those are the pathways that you're burning in the. Again, not a scientist, but it just horrifies me.
Yeah.
And I've got kids. I think I've got right now a 4th grader who is so. I'm not sure I can say addicted, but addicted to Fortnite. And he goes home and he plays it every night. And then he's online with 18, 19, 20,
Right.
14
Strangers.
strange people
You are
talking.
the 8th
Right.
mom that told me this. He goes home, Fortnite. Dinner. Hold up, Mom. I'm trying to get this one. She peeks her head in, and he's just
Yeah.
My son? Phew, Dad, no.
Yeah, it's
Let's go.
that's my biggest thing too. You talk about all of the horrific things that are happening,
Right.
sex trafficking, all
Yeah.
of that kind of stuff.
Right.
That happens through video games.
Yeah.
Our social work, we
Yeah.
had to go to a human trafficking. We had to sit through hours of human trafficking to
Right.
keep our license.
Right.
And they're getting kids through that.
Yeah.
But not even that, I mean, that's the most horrific. But
Yeah.
the worst part is, he's calling him and part of my language and MF, or he's like,
Yeah.
and he's just doing it, like the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they're just doing it fun. They
Right.
don't know.
Right.
This
The
little
kid.
4th grader
Yeah.
is thinking he's getting called all those names. He can't process it out.
And then he's
Right.
gonna say it, cause they say it, so it's just normal
Yes.
video game language
Yes.
at
Right.
that point.
And then when you talk about that social piece, there's a piece where
Right.
that is, I had to ask about his friends, and it came down to online friends or in-person friends.
Right.
Online friends, where do you feel real comfortable? Online friends.
Right.
So that's the screen time part that is bigger, and I think that's what schools are also fighting. And then I'm hearing too that kids are going to bed with their electronics. Parents think they're off, they're not off. I used to think it was crazy that you could change the password. I don't know how to do it that fast, but there's people who like change the password at night so they can't get the Wi-Fi. I don't know how it works on cell service. I don't know. My kids used to have to physically put their phones
On a
in
charger.
Yeah, the
someplace outside of the room.
Yeah.
They could not bring it in. I could only do that up until service. Okay. I only chose to do that. I kind of kept doing it.
It's hard, and I think back to your question, I think it's a balance, and I think we all in this room have a voice to be able to say, you know what, we're not gonna rely on electronics 100%, we can go old fashioned, let's go to the library
Right.
and look up some of this information.
That's what I like to do with my children.
And, really advocate for ourselves and that kind of lifestyle. Not to say that it's not gonna still be pushed through the school, but
Right.
just to kind of allow our kids to know that there are other opportunities
Right.
too, to get that information. Because it's very hard to balance
Definitely.
that.
Definitely is.
Through this, I just handed out, I just I printed out the PowerPoint, so you got the slides there too. And then what did we just send out is we need to take care of ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Because this world is crazy.
Yes.
It is crazy.
Amen.
And when you're worried about your kids and you're trying to figure it all out, you've got all of these things coming at you, it is super important to take care of yourself.
Right.
So what I just handed out was I just got this at that last trauma meeting, is an emergency self-care worksheet. Again, hokey, where you talk about mindfulness, you talk about being aware. It might not hurt to take a peek at this and just play with it for a little bit. If nothing else, it's a reminder
Right.
to take care of you, because we cannot take care of our babies without taking care of ourselves.
That's right.
They feel everything we feel, the anxious parent, the paranoid parent, the overly strict parent, they become us whether we want them
Yeah.
to or not.
Yeah, that is true.
So it is super important, if we're anxious, if we're worried about everything, if we project that, we gotta take care of ourselves and not do that to our
Absolutely.
babies. So this is just take some time, if you have, make some time
Right.
to sit down and take a peek at this. It's
Okay.
nothing more than just a reminder.
Okay.
So, and this second part is more about managing their stress. Because I'm gonna tell you, if you haven't already heard it, it is a stressful environment in the school system right now.
Yes, it is.
I had, we test, in Hastings we test 3 times a year. We're doing the NWA 3 times a year. We're doing DIBELS testing, reading testing 3 times a year. We are progress monitoring the DIBELS stuff bi-weekly depending on how your student is doing. And then we also have the big test at the end of the year. It's not. The MEP test, the MEP test, the MEP test.